Admiral Taiwan paced the sleek metal floor of the command deck, his boots making sharp clicks with each step. The massive view screen before him displayed a perfect image of Earth, its blue oceans and swirling white clouds standing out against the darkness of space. He stopped and clasped his hands behind his back, studying the planet with cold calculation. "Such a tiny world," he murmured. "How did we miss it for so long?" The command deck hummed with quiet activity as officers worked at their stations. The air smelled faintly of metal and the distinct scent of the air purification systems. Commander Jeho approached, holding a data tablet. "Admiral, scan results are complete," Jeho said, his uniform crisp and perfect as he handed over the tablet. "Earth is classified as Development Level 3. They have mastered nuclear energy and achieved limited space travel, but remain confined to their solar system." Taiwan's lips curved into a smile as he scrolled through the data. Images flashed across the screen. Human cities, primitive spacecraft, military installations, all pathetically inadequate against hegemony technology. "Their military capabilities?" he asked. "Nuclear weapons, ballistic missiles, a few orbital platforms," Jeho replied. "Nothing that could threaten our ships. Their most advanced fighters couldn't even reach our orbital position without burning up." Taiwan handed back the tablet. "Another primitive world for the glory of the hegemony. Begin first contact procedures." The bridge crew moved with practiced efficiency. Communications Officer Yuna activated the translation matrix and prepared the standard message. Tactical Officer Dahyun raised defensive shields as a precaution, though his expression suggested he found the action unnecessary. "Message ready, Admiral," Yuna announced. "On screen," Taiwan ordered, straightening his uniform. The view screen shifted, now showing Taiwan's own image as it would be broadcast to Earth. He cleared his throat and began the speech he had delivered dozens of times before. "People of Earth, I am Admiral Taiwan of the Galactic Hegemony, ruler of 1,000 star systems and 10,000 worlds. Our civilization has existed for 30,000 of your years. We have come to welcome you into our empire." He paused for dramatic effect. "You have two choices: submit willingly to hegemony rule and receive the benefits of our advanced technology, medicine, and protection, or refuse and be placed under observation for a period of 50 years, after which you will join us regardless. Choose wisely." The transmission ended. Taiwan turned to his officers with a satisfied expression. "How long before they respond?" he asked. Jeho consulted his tablet. "Based on previous encounters with Level 3 civilizations, we should expect initial confusion, followed by panic, then a disorganized response in approximately 12 hours. Taiwan nodded and settled into his command chair. "Wake me when they—" "Admiral," Yuman interrupted, her voice filled with surprise. "We're receiving a response already." The bridge fell silent. Taiwan raised an eyebrow. "That was fast," he said. "Put it through." The view screen changed again, now showing the image of a human woman in a dark suit. Her gray hair was pulled back, and her expression was calm and measured. "Greetings, Admiral Taiwan of the Galactic Hegemony. I am Secretary General Kim of the United Earth Council. We have received your message and considered your terms." Taiwan leaned forward, intrigued by the lack of fear in the human's voice. After careful deliberation, the Secretary General continued, "We have decided that neither option is acceptable to us. We choose neither submission nor observation. Instead, we propose dialogue as equals." A stunned silence fell over the command deck. Jeho's mouth actually dropped open before he caught himself and resumed a professional demeanor. "This is unexpected," Taiwan said, keeping his voice level despite his surprise. "No civilization at your development level has ever rejected our terms." Secretary General Kim smiled slightly. "Perhaps you have misjudged our development level, Admiral." The transmission ended abruptly, leaving the bridge in silence. "Did they just hang up on us?" Da-hyun asked incredulously. Tai-1 rose from his chair, face flushing with anger. Scan their planet again. Full spectrum analysis. I want to know everything about their military capabilities. The crew rushed to obey as Tai-1 walked to the view screen, studying Earth with new interest. Sir, Jai-ho said after several minutes of tense silence, something strange is happening. Our deep scans are being blocked. Blocked? That's impossible. Level 3 civilizations don't have that technology. Nevertheless, Admiral, something is interfering with our scans. And there's more. We're detecting unusual energy signatures from Earth's moon and several orbital positions. Tai-1's eyes narrowed. Show me. The view screen changed to display a tactical map of Earth's orbit. Dozens of small points of light appeared, blinking softly. What are those? Tai-1 demanded. Unknown, sir, Da-hyun replied. They weren't there during our initial scan. They appeared to activate after our transmission. A cold feeling settled in Tai-1's stomach. He had conquered many worlds, but something about this situation felt wrong. Sir, Yuna called out, we're receiving another transmission from Earth. On screen, Tai-1 ordered. Secretary General Kim appeared again, still wearing that calm, almost amused expression. Admiral Tai-1, we understand our response may have surprised you. To demonstrate our sincerity in seeking peaceful dialogue, we invite you to send representatives to our United Nations headquarters in New York. We are prepared to discuss mutual cooperation rather than submission. Tai-1's jaw tightened. You presume too much, human. The hegemony does not negotiate with primitive. Please don't make assumptions about our level of advancement, Admiral, Kim interrupted smoothly. It would be unfortunate if we had to demonstrate our capabilities more directly. As if on cue, alarms blared across the command deck. Sir, Da-hyun shouted, multiple energy spikes detected. Something is targeting our shield generators. Tai-1 whirled to face the tactical display. Impossible. Raise defensive screens. Prepare weapon systems. Too late, sir, Jai-ho reported, voice tight with disbelief. They've somehow locked onto our shield frequency. They're transmitting some kind of code directly into our systems. On the view screen, Secretary General Kim watched calmly as chaos erupted on the hegemony bridge. Consider this a small demonstration, Admiral, she said. In 30 seconds, your primary systems will restart. No damage will be done to your vessel or crew. When your systems return, we hope you'll be ready to discuss our terms as equals. The view screen went black as power fluctuated throughout the ship. Emergency lights activated, casting the bridge in an eerie red glow. How? Tai-1 whispered, gripping his command chair. How could they do this? As the seconds ticked by, Admiral Tai-1 realized that his easy conquest had just become something far more complicated. The Earth, it seemed, had secrets that the mighty galactic hegemony had never anticipated. It seems, he said quietly as the ship's systems began to reboot, that we have severely underestimated these humans. The meeting room in Seoul gleamed with polished wood and soft lighting. Director Hee-jun sat calmly at the head of the long table, watching the 5 hegemony diplomats with careful eyes. They had arrived 3 hours ago, their ship landing at the specially prepared site outside the city. Now they shifted uncomfortably in their chairs, bodies hunched against Earth's gravity. Would you like the gravity adjusted? Hee-jun asked politely. We can reduce it by 30% if that would make you more comfortable. The lead diplomat, Soo-min, blinked her large eyes. That won't be necessary. We can adapt. Her translator device gave her voice a slight metallic quality. Hee-jun nodded and poured tea for his guests. Steam rose from the ceramic cups. None of the aliens reached for them. I understand you're here to discuss the terms of our observation period, Hee-jun said, his face showing no emotion. Soo-min straightened in her chair. Yes, the hegemony is prepared to be generous. During the 50-year observation, We will allow Earth to maintain its current governance structures under hegemony oversight. We will gradually introduce advanced technologies appropriate for your development level. Hajum sipped his tea. And what development level have you classified us as, exactly? Level 3, one of the other diplomats answered promptly. Nuclear capable with primitive space travel. No faster-than-light technology. Limited quantum computing. Standard biological evolution with no significant genetic engineering. Hajun placed his cup down gently. Your classification system is interesting, he said, sliding a tablet across the table. But I think you'll find our technological capabilities don't fit neatly into your categories. Su Min took the tablet with an indulgent smile that quickly faded as she began to scroll through the information. The other diplomats gathered around, their long fingers moving across the screen. The room grew very quiet. This is impossible, Su Min whispered. Your quantum computing solutions, they're decades beyond where you should be. Hajun smiled. Would you like to see our facility? It's not far from here. Without waiting for an answer, he tapped a control panel on the table. The wall behind him slid open, revealing a large window. Beyond it stretched a vast room filled with equipment unlike anything the hegemony had seen before. A glowing blue cube floated in the center, suspended in midair without visible support. Our QSP-7 quantum processing core, Hajun explained. It makes your ship's computer look like a child's toy. The diplomats stared in shock. Su Min's hands trembled slightly as she put down the tablet. How? She demanded. Our scans showed nothing like this. We've been aware of your presence for some time, Hajun said calmly. Did you really think those unidentified objects in our skies went unnoticed? We've been preparing. How long? Another diplomat asked. We detected your scout ships 63 years ago, Hajun replied. Since then, we've been watching you watch us. He tapped the table again, and a holographic display appeared above it. Dozens of hegemony ships and probes appeared, their paths tracked across the solar system over decades. You were careless, Hajun continued. Your stealth technology is good, but not perfect. Each time we detected one of your devices, we learned a little more. Su Min stood abruptly. This meeting is over. We must report to our superiors. Of course, Hajun said, rising as well. But before you go, there's one more thing you should know. He held up a small device. We've been listening to your communications since you entered our system. Your encryption took us approximately 3 hours to break. The diplomats exchanged alarmed glances. Their supposedly unbreakable encryption was the backbone of hegemony security. That's not possible, Su Min said, but her voice lacked conviction. Would you like to hear a sample? Hajun pressed a button on the device. Admiral Ta Wan's voice filled the room. Once the diplomatic mission is complete, prepare target solutions for their major cities. We'll show these primitives the cost of defiance. The recording ended. The room fell silent. That was a private military communication, Su Min said, her voice barely a whisper. Yes, Hajun agreed. Sent approximately 6 hours ago. Rather contradicts your peaceful observation claims, doesn't it? Hajun walked to the door and opened it. I think we're done here. Your shuttle is waiting to take you back to your ship. Please convey our message to Admiral Ta Wan. Earth is not interested in submission or being a target for demonstration. We are, however, still open to dialogue between equals. The diplomats filed out, their tall frames moving stiffly. Su Min paused at the door. You don't understand what you're doing, she said. The hegemony does not tolerate defiance. Hajun's smile didn't reach his eyes. Neither do we. Admiral Ta Wan slammed his fist on the command console. The bridge crew flinched, keeping their eyes on their stations. Played, he shouted. We've been played like children. Commander Jaho stood at a respectful distance. The diplomatic team has returned safely, Admiral. They've submitted their full report. Taiwan gestured to the view screen, which showed the data from the meeting in Seoul. How is this possible? A level 3 civilization doesn't develop quantum technology of this sophistication. They don't break our encryption codes. They don't detect our stealth ships. The evidence suggests they're not level 3, sir, Jai-Ho said carefully. Obviously. Todd 1 snapped. But how did we miss it? How did all our scans show primitive technology? Jai-Ho hesitated before answering. It appears they've been concealing their true capabilities, sir, deliberately presenting themselves as less advanced than they actually are. Tai-1 paced the bridge, his mind racing. This changed everything. The hegemony's entire conquest strategy was based on accurate technological assessment. If Earth had been hiding its true capabilities, how many other worlds have done the same? He wondered aloud. How many have been watching us while we thought we were watching them? He stopped pacing and turned to his tactical officer. Are our weapon systems operational again? Yes, Admiral. All systems have been restored since the incident. Tai-1 nodded grimly. Begin targeting solutions for Earth's major military installations. If they've been preparing for us, we need to strike before they can fully mobilize. The tactical officer hesitated. Sir, given their demonstrated capabilities, is that wise? Tai-1 glared at him. Are you questioning my orders? No, Admiral, the officer replied quickly, turning to his console. Tai-1 returned to his command chair, seething with anger and something else. Fear. The hegemony had conquered 1,000 worlds, but none had ever managed to infiltrate their systems, break their codes, or neutralize their shields. This cannot stand, he hissed, watching as targeting solutions appeared on the main view screen. Prepare a military demonstration, one they will not forget. As the crew prepared for battle, a small notification appeared on Tai-1's personal console, a message from Earth. He opened it reluctantly. It contained only 3 words. We see you. Tai-1 stared at the message, a cold feeling spreading through his chest. For the first time in his career, he wondered if he might have made a terrible mistake. The red planet Mars hung in space, its rusty surface beautiful against the blackness. Until yesterday, it had been peaceful. Now 30 hegemony warships moved into position around it, their engines glowing blue against the dark. The ships were huge, each one almost a mile long, shaped like arrowheads, with sharp edges that gleamed in the distant sunlight. On the command ship, Admiral Tai-1 stood with his hands behind his back. His face was hard as stone. The failure of the meeting in Seoul still burned in his mind. All ships in position, Admiral, reported Commander Jai-Ho. Weapons are charged and ready. Tai-1 nodded. Begin the broadcast. All Earth frequencies. Jai-Ho pressed a button on his console. Channel open, sir. Tai-1 straightened his uniform and spoke in a clear, strong voice. People of Earth, your leaders have foolishly rejected our generous offer. Now you will witness the price of defiance. He paused, letting fear build among the humans who were surely watching. Behold the power of the hegemony, he continued. We have positioned our battle fleet around your neighboring planet Mars. Unless your governments immediately agree to our terms, we will destroy it completely. You have 1 Earth hour to respond. He signaled for the transmission to end. Sir, Jai-Ho said quietly, is destroying an entire planet necessary? The Hegemon Council might not approve such extreme. The Council is 10 light-years away, Tai-1 snapped. By the time they hear of this, Earth will be under our control. We cannot allow other worlds to see a level 3 civilization defy us. The example must be made. Far below, in a deep bunker beneath the Rocky Mountains, Colonel Do-hyun of the United Earth Defense Force watched the hegemony fleet on a large screen. Around him, men and women worked calmly at their stations despite the threat hanging over them. They really are going to do it, said his second-in-command, Major Sunme. They're going to try to destroy Mars. Do-hyun smiled slightly, just as we predicted. He pressed a button on his chair. All defense forces, this is Colonel Do-hyun. Operation Red Shield is now active. I repeat, Operation Red Shield is active. He turned to his communications officer. Connect me to the UES Defender. The screen changed to show the bridge of Earth's flagship, currently hiding behind Mars' larger moon, Phobos. Captain Minho saluted from his command chair. Colonel, the Defender is ready. The fleet is in position. Good, Du Hyun said. Begin Phase 1. And Minho, good hunting. Minho grinned. Time to show these bullies what happens when they threaten our home. Back on the Hegemony command ship, Admiral Ta-1 watched the countdown clock. Only 10 minutes remained in his ultimatum, and still no response from Earth. Strange, he muttered. I expected them to be begging for mercy by now. Sir, called the sensor officer, I'm detecting unusual energy readings from the surface of Mars. Ta-1 frowned. Mars is uninhabited. There shouldn't be any energy readings. Nevertheless, sir, something is. The officer stopped mid-sentence, staring at his screen. Admiral, you need to see this. All across Mars, something was happening. Points of light appeared on the surface, growing brighter by the second. In orbit around the planet, dozens of objects suddenly appeared, as if they had been invisible until now. What is that? Ta-1 demanded, a cold feeling growing in his stomach. It appears to be a defense grid. Sir, Jai-Ho said, his voice shaking slightly. Orbital platforms and surface installations. Our sensors didn't detect them until they powered up. Impossible. Ta-1 shouted. Mars is uninhabited. They don't have the technology to. Admiral, the communications officer interrupted. We're receiving a transmission from Mars orbit. The main view screen changed to show a human in a dark uniform. He sat in what was clearly the command chair of a warship. This is Captain Minho of the UES Defender. You are currently targeted by the Mars defense grid. Power down your weapons immediately and withdraw from Mars orbit. Ta-1's face flushed with anger. How dare you? You think a few hidden platforms can stand against the might of the Hegemony fleet? Your pathetic defenses will be dust in minutes. Minho's expression didn't change. You have 30 seconds to comply. Ta-1 cut the transmission. Target those platforms. All ships, fire at will. The Hegemony fleet opened fire, energy beams lancing out toward Mars. But something strange happened. Many of the beams seemed to bend away from their targets, while others hit but caused no visible damage. Sir, the tactical officer reported, confusion in his voice. Our weapons are having minimal effect. The Earth defenses are protected by some kind of energy field we've never seen before. Before Ta-1 could respond, new alarms sounded across the bridge. Multiple ships launching from behind Phobos, shouted the sensor officer. Earth vessels, at least 20 of them. Ta-1 stared at the tactical display as the Earth ships appeared. They were smaller than the Hegemony vessels, but moved with incredible speed and precision, their hulls gleaming silver in the sunlight. Target those ships, Ta-1 ordered. All batteries, fire. The Hegemony fleet turned its attention to the approaching Earth vessels. Energy beams and plasma torpedoes lashed out across space. Some hit their targets, but the Earth ships moved in patterns that made no sense, changing direction with impossible sharpness, somehow predicting where the Hegemony weapons would fire. Admiral, the communications officer called out, her voice rising with alarm. They're targeting our communication satellites. 3 Earth ships broke formation, accelerating toward the network of satellites the Hegemony had placed in Earth orbit. Before Ta-1 could react, the ships fired strange blue beams that didn't destroy the satellites but somehow passed through them. Our satellites are going offline, sir, the officer reported. They've somehow infected them with a computer virus. Ta-1 gripped the arms of his command chair as more reports of failures came in. 3 Hegemony cruisers suddenly lost power, drifting helplessly as Earth ships moved past them. Another reported that its weapon systems were firing at random, unable to target properly. How are they doing this? Ta-1 demanded. No level 3 civilization has this kind of technology. Jai-Ho looked up from his console, his face pale. Sir, I don't think they are level 3. I think they've been hiding their true capabilities for years, possibly centuries. Taiwan watched in horror as another hegemony ship reported complete systems failure. In less than 5 minutes, Earth forces had disabled 5 of his ships without destroying a single one. Sir, Jai-Ho said quietly, I recommend a tactical withdrawal. We need to regroup and reassess. Taiwan wanted to refuse. In his entire career, he had never retreated. But as he watched the Earth ships moving with perfect coordination, striking with technologies he couldn't understand, he knew he had no choice. Order all ships to fall back to the secondary position, he said, his voice tight with anger. This isn't over. We will return with the full might of the hegemony. As the hegemony fleet began its retreat, Taiwan received one final transmission from the UES Defender. Captain Minho's face appeared on screen, his expression serious. Next time you visit our solar system, Admiral, he said, I suggest you come in peace. We would much prefer to be friends than enemies. The transmission ended, leaving Taiwan staring at the view screen as his fleet limped away from Mars. For the first time in his life, he wondered if the hegemony had finally met its match. The great hegemony armada emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system. Over 300 warships filled the blackness of space, their engines glowing like angry red eyes. This was no longer a small force meant to scare the humans. This was the full might of the hegemony, gathered to crush Earth once and for all. Admiral Taiwan stood on the bridge of his new flagship, the Eternal Victory. His old command ship had been too damaged in the Mars battle to lead this assault. He looked at the tactical display showing the vast fleet spread out before him. The largest fleet gathering in 50 years, Commander Jai-Ho said quietly beside him. The Hegemon Council has authorized all necessary force to bring Earth under control. Taiwan nodded, his face showing no emotion. Inside, however, he felt a flicker of doubt. The Mars defeat still burned in his mind. But surely no civilization could stand against such overwhelming power. Begin the advance, he ordered. All ships, battle formation Alpha 3. The massive fleet began its move deeper into the system. Scouts went ahead, scanning for threats. Patrol ships spread wide to watch for ambushes. The heavy battleships formed the core of the formation, protecting the fleet carriers that housed thousands of fighter craft. Time to Earth orbit, Taiwan asked. At current speed, 3 hours, Admiral, the navigation officer replied. Taiwan settled into his command chair. 3 hours until his revenge began. The first sign of trouble came as the fleet passed the orbit of Jupiter. 3 scout ships suddenly went silent, their signals disappearing from the tactical display. What happened? Taiwan demanded. Unknown, sir, the sensor officer replied, her fingers moving quickly over her console. No weapons fire detected. They simply vanished. Before Taiwan could respond, 5 more ships at the edge of the formation disappeared from sensors. Admiral, Jai-Ho said, I recommend we halt the advance until we determine what's happening. Taiwan hesitated. To stop now might appear weak, but to continue blindly could be worse. Agreed. All ships, hold position and go to full alert. For several minutes, nothing happened. The fleet hung in space, sensors sweeping for any sign of the enemy. The silence stretched on, making the bridge crew increasingly nervous. Perhaps they fled, Taiwan suggested. Realized they couldn't possibly. A massive explosion cut him off as one of the hegemony battleships suddenly erupted in flames. Then another, and another. We're under attack, Jai-Ho shouted. But from where? The tactical display showed no enemy ships, nothing on sensors. Yet hegemony vessels continued to explode or lose power throughout the formation. There, a junior officer shouted, pointing at the main view screen. Did you see that? For just a moment, something had flickered into view near one of the stricken cruisers, a small silver ship that appeared and then vanished as if it had never been there. Some kind of cloaking technology, Jaiho whispered. They're all around us, but we can't see them. Taiwan slammed his fist on his armrest. All ships, defensive formation. Fire pattern Omega. Full spread, all directions. The hegemony fleet began firing blindly into space, hoping to hit the invisible attackers. Energy beams lanced out in all directions, creating a deadly web. A few lucky shots revealed Earth ships as their cloaking fields failed, but most of the barrage hit nothing. Launch all fighters. Taiwan ordered. Find those ships. Thousands of small fighter craft poured from the carrier ships, spreading out in search of the enemy. But they too began to disappear, falling to weapons they couldn't see coming from ships they couldn't detect. In the chaos of battle, no one noticed a small Earth vessel slip alongside the hulking form of a disabled hegemony dreadnought. Inside the Earth ship, Captain Maisu checked her team's equipment one last time. Remember, she told the 20 soldiers in the boarding pod, we want this ship intact. Disable their crew, but minimize casualties if possible. Our main target is their computer core. Once we have their tactical database, we pull out immediately. Her team nodded, faces serious behind their helmet visors. They had trained for this moment for years. Boarding tube secure, the pilot reported. You're clear to go. Maisu led the way, moving quickly through the connection tube and into the hegemony ship. Inside, red emergency lights cast eerie shadows along the corridors. Alarm klaxons wailed, but no defenders appeared. Too easy, Maisu muttered, checking her scanner. They should have security teams responding by now. Her team moved deeper into the ship, following the path to the computer core that intelligence had provided. They encountered a few hegemony crew members, quickly subduing them with stun weapons. Captain, her second-in-command said, pointing to a nearby terminal, look at this. Maisu glanced at the screen showing the battle outside. The hegemony fleet was in disarray, ships firing randomly into space, many disabled or destroyed. Earth forces were systematically taking apart the greatest armada ever assembled. She smiled grimly. Let's finish our job and go home. Meanwhile, aboard the Eternal Victory, Admiral Taiwan watched in horror as his grand fleet fell apart around him. A third of his ships were already disabled or destroyed, and Earth forces were now visible everywhere. Their cloaking technology abandoned as it was no longer needed. Admiral, Yi Jin reported from communications, we're receiving distress calls from throughout the fleet. Earth boarding parties have taken control of at least 12 of our vessels. Impossible, Taiwan whispered, but he no longer believed his own words. A new alert sounded on the bridge. Sir, the tactical officer called out, panic in his voice, multiple Earth vessels approaching our position. They've somehow broken through our defensive screen. On the view screen, Taiwan watched as 5 sleek Earth ships moved toward his flagship with perfect coordination. He recognized their formation. It was a classic hegemony encirclement maneuver, one that he himself had pioneered. How did they know? He wondered aloud. That's my tactical innovation. It's not even in the standard fleet manuals. Sir, Yi Jin said, her voice shaking, we're detecting energy surges throughout the ship. Our systems are being accessed remotely. Seal all computer systems, Taiwan ordered. Disconnect from the network. Too late, sir. They're already in. And, she paused, her face paling, all FTL drives are malfunctioning. We can't retreat. Taiwan stood from his chair, drawing his sidearm. Prepare for boarding. We will not surrender this ship. But even as he spoke, the bridge doors slid open. A team of humans in sleek combat armor entered, weapons raised. Behind them walked a small woman with captain's insignia on her uniform. She held a data device in her hand. Admiral Taiwan. Captain Maisu said calmly, your fleet is defeated. Your ship is under our control. I suggest you surrender. Taiwan stared at her in disbelief. How? He demanded. How can a level 3 civilization do this? Maisu smiled slightly. Perhaps you should have checked your classification system. We stopped being level 3 about 200 years ago. She gestured to one of her soldiers, who projected a hologram showing the remains of the once mighty hegemony fleet. The battle is over, Admiral, Maisu said. Now come with us. Our leaders would like to discuss new terms with the hegemony. Terms between equals. As Tadwan was led from his bridge, he realized that the greatest empire in the galaxy had just met its match in a species from a small blue planet they had almost overlooked. In the vast expanse of space, humanity had proven itself to be more than just another species struggling to survive. General Junho stood before the Hegemon Council, a powerful group that had once ruled countless worlds with an iron grip. But today, everything would change. With calm confidence, Junho presented a vision that would reshape the galaxy. He showed holograms of multiple alien civilizations, all waiting for a chance at true freedom and equal representation. The council members listened, their expressions a mix of skepticism and surprise. The key moment came when Junho revealed Earth's true military might. The technology was so advanced that it seemed almost magical to the alien leaders. They realized that humans could have destroyed them completely, but chose instead to offer peace. Ambassador Tadwan, once a proud admiral who had fought against humans, now understood something profound. The human strength wasn't just about weapons, but about their ability to adapt and create. He watched as ships from different worlds gathered at the new Confederation headquarters, a symbol of hope and unity. General Junho explained that humanity's long history of internal conflicts had taught them valuable lessons about warfare and, more importantly, about peace. Their painful past had prepared them to become bridge builders between civilizations. The galaxy was changing. What started as a potential conflict had transformed into an opportunity for collaboration. Earth, once a small and overlooked planet, was now the center of a new galactic community. The old rules of conquest and domination were being replaced by cooperation and mutual understanding. As ships from dozens of worlds docked together, it became clear that this was more than just a political agreement. It was a new way of thinking about existence, about how different species could live and work together. Taiwan reflected on his own journey. His greatest defeat had become the pathway to the most significant peace the galaxy had ever known. Humans had turned destruction into creation, turning a potential war into a chance for something greater. Standing on the observation deck, with Earth shining like a beautiful blue and green jewel against the darkness of space, Junho and Taiwan represented a new hope. They were living proof that understanding could replace conflict, that dialogue could overcome historical hatred. The Galactic Confederation was born not from weakness, but from strength. Not from revenge, but from a deep understanding of what truly matters in the universe: connection, respect, and the possibility of a shared future. As the stars twinkled around them, humanity had written a new chapter in galactic history, a chapter of hope, transformation, and unexpected unity.